this an especially useful conversation for you today?
Yeah. So I've been kind of trying to highlight my like strengths and weaknesses. I think what I'm having the most trouble on is weirdly like what I started out with the least amount of trouble on, because I guess I just didn't focus on it as much, which is just kind of getting tripped up with certain types of like logical reasoning questions.
Okay, which
So
types?
yeah, so specifically like flaw in the reasoning, or like, you know, the longer, wordier ones that have like, if this, which of these follows like this similar pattern of logic. I used to have no problem with those, and now I get really caught up in like trying to figure out like the sufficient evidence for things, and I think I overthink it, and I've been like surprised at how often I've been getting those wrong when they used to be like more like second nature to me.
Right, right. So maybe you're overthinking it.
Yeah, yeah, so any advice on that would be great.
Are these the tougher problems overall? I know you said some of the more complex ones, which are obviously tougher, but how many do you get wrong in the first 10 within a logical reasoning section?
um I don't usually think about it in terms of tens, but in terms of like the whole section, I think I usually get like 3 or 4 wrong.
That's not bad. 3 or 4 wrong in
Yeah,
a section.
yeah, yeah, but sometimes it's like a lot worse. But on average, it's more like 3 or 4.
Okay. I would encourage you to look at the distribution within a section because logical reasoning questions are in a general order of difficulty.
Hmm.
So most people, if things are going smoothly, they'll get most of the early questions right. And then their accuracy will decrease as the section goes on because you're handling tougher questions.
Hmm.
And so if you're proficient in the exam and you have a good foundation, then if you're getting easy questions wrong, it could be because you're overthinking them.
Hmm.
And if you're getting harder questions wrong, that's to be expected because they're harder. And
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with you there. And there may not even be trends in certain types you get wrong on the more difficult end. You're just getting them wrong because they're hard. And it could be questions with complex wording, or it could just be those lengthy parallel or principal application questions. And so you might want to focus on those and focus your review on those. And then for the easier ones, just trust your gut. What does your review process look like?
So I typically will do either a full practice test or like sections, take a break after I do all of the section or practice test, and then find out which ones I got wrong. And then there's just various like free resources. Sometimes there you can even look it up on certain courses, like for video explanations of things, and I try to just kind of like go through and understand like why the answer I had was wrong. Khan Academy, which LSAT kind of like sponsors, actually will tell you, like it'll explain each answer if you go back in, and so I found that to be really helpful just to understand like why. So like if I got something wrong, it'll be like, this is why this is wrong, this is why this is a better choice. It's not always that easy, but that's been my review process.
Good. So explanations are good and they're useful, but only to a certain point. And Khan Academy, I think it's really great because it gives you a bunch of free exams. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? But it's really a collection of explanations more than a cohesive system.
It's also reuses the same questions over and over, I've noticed.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a limited set of questions. And so I'd say for your review, look at explanations at some point for the ones that give you the most trouble, but also look at your own thought process, not just why the right answer is right and why the wrong answer is wrong, but what is tempting about the wrong answer that makes you pick it? What makes you personally pick it? What were you misunderstanding? What were you reading into the text that wasn't there? And then for the right answer, what made it seem unappealing to you? There are certain tricks in how LSAC writes these questions, and you're uniquely prone to falling for certain specific tricks. Everyone has their own idiosyncrasies in their way of thinking, but you got to see what gives you trouble so that you can avoid making the same mistake again. Because if you just move on and you don't thoroughly understand it, you will make that same mistake again, and that trick will come up again. The exam just repeats itself over and over in different forms.
Yeah, that's really good advice. When you coach people on how to do that, like looking at your own reasoning, like, are there other questions that you can ask yourself other than just like, what was I thinking? Like, why did I get this wrong?
Yeah,
Just kind of, because sometimes it's not as like clear as that, you know what I mean?
sure. You also want to look at what were the different ways that they increased the difficulty level of a given question. There could be, because there could be 5 or 10 things that make one question difficult. And there could be difficulties in the stimulus or in the question stem or in the choices. And I talked a little bit about the choices, again, tempting wrong answers and discouraging right answers. But there could also be the right answer to the wrong question in the choices. Like a lot of times for a necessary assumption question, they'll put a very tempting sufficient assumption answer as choice A, or immediately before the correct answer, so you confidently pick it and move on without ever even seeing the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
Or the question stem could be worded in an unfamiliar way. Or in the stimulus, they could require you to take the contrapositive of a conditional in order to link things together. Or they could include words like unless, except, until, or without. Or they could make the structure conclusion, evidence, then subconclusion. So the order of things is scrambled from what would be simplest. Or they might make it on a confusing topic or use abstract language. I mean, I could go on and on. These are all different ways they increase the difficulty. So a level 5 question might include all of the things I just mentioned, and a level 3 question will only include a couple of them.
Okay, that's really helpful. Do you know how many, like on average, how many different, like how much of the variety between level 5 and level 3 or like less questions there are in each test? Is there like usually an average, or does it just vary by test?
It's meant to be roughly equal. I mean, all tests are equated. So I would suspect that the average difficulty level should be 3, but they will have questions all across the spectrum, because the job of this exam is to separate people all along the band from 120 to 180. And so a level 1 question might separate those in the 120s from those in the 130s and above. So only the lowest scoring students will get that wrong. But then a level 5 question, everybody except those in the 170s are likely to get those wrong. So only 170 plus will get it right. That's the idea. So the toughest questions are really separating the 160s and below from everyone above that. And it's hard, but I think it really just comes down to how many tricks are they throwing into one question that will determine the difficulty level. And that's part of what the goal of the experimental sections is to do.
I had downloaded your like 3-month, I think, study plan, and that was really helpful. I took it in July and got like 20 points lower than I normally get on my average practice test. And part of that was like, it was a crazy day. I kind of started off on the wrong foot and just stumbled. So I knew I wasn't going to do well that day at all, but I tried. What would your recommendation be for someone like me who's like a little more prepared now, a little more confident now, but has like a week to kind of like just feel like I'm gonna kill it? What would your last week look like before taking it?
I would maybe do one more full-length timed exam and engage in detailed review of that exam as we've discussed, but that's it. And how are you feeling about your most recent tests, by the way?
The one I took, like the official one, or just my most recent practice?
Practice.
Very good. But I feel like I've plateaued in this range. It's in like the mid to high 160 range, which I'm very okay with. But it's weird. I've been studying for a while, like pretty intense studying, and I haven't really jumped up past 170, but I'm close, but I haven't been able to like I'm kind of where I'm at. So as long as the stress and the nerves don't like play too much of a factor in at this time, I'm hoping to score closer to that range than I did in the actual exam.
Great. Yeah. So take one more if you want to get one more under your belt, but also know that if it goes well, great. If it doesn't go as well as you'd like, keep in mind that the average of your most recent 5 exams or so is the best indication of where you stand. And you might do this one just to maybe get a little bit more understanding if there's a certain degree of review that you want to engage in, as we've discussed, that you might not have previously done. Okay. But this is not the point to try and cram or learn something totally new.
Totally.
And I would also be thinking more about things you could do to just pump yourself up, like motivational videos, or to reduce anxiety, things like mindfulness meditation, or just taking it easy and going for a walk in the park or something like that.
Okay.
And then also know that while obviously you want this to be it, that there are future opportunities to retake it if you want to.
Yeah.
Like you could still take it in January and apply this cycle and be perfectly fine.
Okay. That's a good point. I've been kind of feeling like November's it, but I guess January would be doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could help for peace of mind if you want to. You could even register for that just to have it secured, to know that there is a backup, and you could do it if you want to, just to see what happens. Not really much downside.
That's a good point. Okay.
Any other questions for today, Kat?
That was basically it. Just, like you said, I don't want to try to learn something crazy new right now. I'm happy with the scores that I've been getting. I'm just kind of hoping for the mindset and how to understand my thought process better, which those specific questions really helped with. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course. What would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
Specifically how to kind of crack open that question of like, what did I miss and how did I make the mistake, or like, why did the wrong answer appeal to me? Not just asking why did I not get the right answer, because I haven't really ever looked at it like that. And I think that'll give me a little bit more of like the whole rest of the iceberg instead of the tip of the iceberg. So that's really helpful.
Great. Well, keep in touch and let me know how it goes.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.